nicotine in these products is what causes cancer.
That's factually and scientifically incorrect.
But can you categorically say then that these products are better than a cigarette?
Absolutely.
Can you tell me the top 3 misconceptions that you hear all the time about nicotine pouches?
1, it's about the nicotine content or how much nicotine is in a pouch. You hear 1 pouch is equal to 4 or 5 or even upwards of 10 cigarettes. 2 would have to be that nicotine pouches must cause cancer or do cause cancer. And 3 would be more about regulators who let cigarettes be sold as consumer products, but are banning nicotine pouches to protect health.
That's quite a shocking statement that you made straight off there as number 1. Can you tell me exactly how much nicotine there is in a nicotine pouch, particularly when compared to cigarettes in this case?
Well, there's a range because nicotine pouches are really a category or a group of products. And even the products we sell, we have some that are around 3 milligrams to about 12 milligrams, but they go up to about 20 when you think about the regular, everyday nicotine pouches in a store. But you also see things that are being sold online with 100 milligrams or 150 milligrams, which is way too high. And I think this is where regulators have a role to play of setting limits to ensure that you don't have toxic levels of nicotine, but do deliver nicotine in a way that consumers will actually give up cigarettes.
So where is that difference then between the nicotine in a nicotine pouch and the nicotine in a cigarette?
The amount of nicotine in the tobacco of a cigarette is probably in the range of 10 to 14 milligrams, so very similar. But when you smoke a cigarette, light it on fire, and the smoke comes through, it delivers about 1 milligram of nicotine. That's where you get that confusion. 1 milligram comes out of a cigarette in the smoke compared to 10 milligrams in the pouch. But when you talk about what a person is exposed to, which is really what's going to drive any risk, that's going to come down on a pouch to how long that pouch stays in somebody's mouth will determine how much of that 10 milligrams in the pouch will actually be extracted from the pouch. It's not going to be 100%.
When it comes to exposure though, one of the scary facts that people talk about all the time is that nicotine in these products is what causes cancer.
Well, that's a understandable confusion, but also a wrong conclusion. Many people think about smoking and they automatically connect it to nicotine. So people think, well, smoking delivers nicotine, so it must be the nicotine that causes the cancer. I can understand why, but that's factually and scientifically incorrect. We know from the International Agency of Research on Cancer, the world leading experts on cancer, they looked at tobacco and tobacco smoke, and they came up with a list of the compounds in it that cause cancer. And nicotine did not make that list. So we know it's not causing cancer.
But ultimately, while we say that there's nicotine in these pouches, there are other components in these pouches too. What is in a nicotine pouch?
A nicotine pouch is really like a tea bag, a pouch that in it has pharma-grade nicotine, so nicotine extracted from a tobacco leaf and then purified to a pharma-grade, similar to what's in a nicotine replacement therapy. And then you mix that with fillers and binders, things to make the product stable, together with flavors and sweeteners, which are what a person tastes and therefore provide a satisfying experience to a user.
But you do hear some absolute horror stories about what is actually in these products. You hear things like glass, arsenic.
Well, you're going to hear a lot of variety of stories. Some of it is going to be hype, and some may be other products that are not ours and are not processed or manufactured at the same level of quality that we can do. So I can speak about Zyn, our product. I can categorically say we've assessed it, and there's not arsenic in our product. And our products are not going to have glass put in for whatever reason people might think that that exists.
But let's look at it from a different point of view then. If nicotine is causing all these concerns for people, why not just create a pouch that has no nicotine in it?
I guess on a technical level, could you sell one? Yes. But if you think about who these products are for and why they're using these products, you have to deliver to what the consumer is trying to purchase. So we know from cigarettes that many smokers smoke for the nicotine, but the harms of the smoking is caused by all the other chemicals that come together with the nicotine in the smoke when you burn tobacco. So if we really want them to give up those cigarettes, which will have a benefit for public health, then you have to give them the nicotine, the substance they're looking for, but remove or lower the harmful chemicals that come with it so we can reduce the harms of the behavior itself.
But can you categorically say then that these products are better than a cigarette?
Absolutely. This is an easy one because when you look at a cigarette, you've got the burning of the tobacco that's generating more than 6,000 chemicals. So together with that nicotine comes 6,000 chemicals, of which almost 100 of them are known to be harmful and cause smoking-related diseases. When you look at a nicotine pouch, you don't have the tobacco leaf. You're actually extracting the nicotine from the tobacco and purifying and putting it in there. So their levels of exposure are going to be significantly lower because if you don't put it in the pouch, they're not going to be exposed to it. Then if you take the second look and say, well, what do we know? These products are very similar to snus. Snus is also a pouch type product, except for it has the actual tobacco still in the product. And it's been available in Sweden for the better part of a century. With decades of epidemiological data, we know, and the FDA in the USA, actually, when they authorized snus as a modified risk tobacco product, they allowed us to communicate with consumers that switching from cigarettes to snus would reduce their risk of oral cancer, lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, and chronic bronchitis and emphysema. And can you think about Zyn, our nicotine pouch product? When it was authorized for sale in that exact same country, they looked at the evidence on that, compared it to cigarettes, compared it to snus, and they came to the conclusion that snus would be the highest or the higher limit of what you can expect from Zyn. So we know that cigarettes are by far the most harmful. Snus is significantly less harmful, and nicotine pouches are even less harmful than that, where at worst, they're exactly the same as sticks.
But one of the issues that we have is that these products are still really relatively new to the market. So how can you genuinely know what the long-term effects are going to be?
Well, I think the long-term effects are going to take long-term to generate that data. But that's why it's important to have those comparators and know maybe you won't be able to put a number on it and an error bar on it because I'm a statistician. But what you will be able to do is understand where on the continuum of risk these products sit. And that's really what's important. And then you put monitoring and post-market type surveillance in place to understand and ensure you're able to deliver on that prediction.
Let's look at the way that these products are marketed, though, because that is a concerning issue for people. These products are seen to be glamorized. In fact, people could say that Philip Morris is just going back to the old days of traditional tobacco marketing when it comes to these products.
Well, I think we should first take a step back and look at what people's complaints are. I understand, and there is a concern. We absolutely do not want people seeing these things in a glamorous way. And therefore, you need to make sure that you're marketing these things responsibly. Who gets access to the marketing, limiting access to the product itself, making sure you have proper age verification and access prevention type things in place to make sure that these products make it into the hands of adults who smoke. And we need to get people away from cigarettes as fast as possible and as many away from cigarettes as possible. So in order to do that, and when you think about how you're going to do a behavioral change on that scale, you need to first look at what are the things that people like about smoking? How can we deliver that, but with lower amounts of harms? So smoking is a very social behavior. We're trying to create a social, human experience for people who are seeking that, where they get to try the product, become aware of it, and hopefully make a successful switch away from cigarettes in an environment that supports them in doing so. And then you layer on top of that, who do we not want to see these? We do not want underage people being part of that experience. So you put age gates in place. You send your invites to adult smokers or adult nicotine users. We need to support the people who are smoking or would otherwise continue to smoke to make this change, which we know is difficult, and to be able to succeed at it.